Welcome to the channel. Let's move on to the news. Today there is new and horrifying news about the Ukrainian fighters. The whole world has seen, thanks to new videos, that Ukrainian troops shot 10 captured Russian soldiers who were already lying on the ground and then also mocked them. Which part of the troops did this or which Ukrainian faction did this is not yet clear, but the fact is that it was 100% done by Ukrainian men who said everywhere that they did not violate the Geneva Conventions and the rules of war. But every day and month, this war is getting dirtier, and harder to understand. Why did the Ukrainians shoot the Russians when they were already unarmed and on the ground? Why do Ukrainians strike residential houses in settlements that are close to the border, instead of shooting at Russia's energy system? Ukrainian President Zelensky himself said they were honest, fighting by the rules and wouldn't touch peaceful people in Russia? Well, it turns out that all is not so simple in this conflict. Yes, Russian troops aren't exactly acting cleanly either, but this is war, anything can happen here. The Ukrainian authorities are already claiming the destruction of 50% of the energy infrastructure of all of Ukraine. That's terrible. Why are the Russian military not fighting at the front against the same Ukrainian military soldiers, but firing missiles at infrastructure that will only make things worse for ordinary civilians? The destruction of heat and light does not affect Ukrainian soldiers in any way. The Ukrainian and Russian military already live in the field, they do not need heat and electricity. They use autonomous systems. Also about the Ukrainian energy system, European Commissioner Lenarchik commented, "The damage to Ukraine's energy system is approaching a critical point." The European Union believes that the damage to Ukraine's energy system is approaching a critical point. This was stated by the European Commissioner for Humanitarian Aid and Crisis Management Yanis Lenarchik in his Twitter. The destruction of Ukraine's energy infrastructure is approaching a critical point. The European Union is working non-stop to support the country's energy supply, he wrote. According to the European Commissioner, Germany, Belgium, Finland, Sweden and Slovakia are currently delivering additional aid to the Republic through the European Union's Civil Defense Mechanism. Let's move on to a summary of casualties from the Ukrainian side of the conflict. Ukrainian sources report 350 dead Russian soldiers and the destruction of one tank in the Luhansk direction. They also report the destruction of 4 destroyed armored vehicles, the destruction of 4 air defense systems, the shooting down of 5 unmanned guided vehicles, and the destruction of 6 cruise missiles. The Russian armed forces made the following statements. An attempt by the Ukrainian armed forces to attack in the direction of Shirvanopapavka of the Luhansk People's Republic was foiled in the Krasnolimansky direction. As a result of concentrated fire from Russian artillery, the advancing enemy units were stopped and dispersed, Konashenkov noted. He added that up to 40 Ukrainian servicemen, 2 infantry fighting vehicles and 2 armored vehicles were destroyed in the course of combat operations. At the same time, in the Kupiansk direction destroyed more than 50 Ukrainian servicemen, 2 tanks and 5 armored vehicles. In the Kupiansk direction, Russian artillery and heavy flamethrower systems thwarted attempts by the enemy to attack 2 company tactical groups in the direction of the settlements of Yagodnoy in the Kharkiv region and Kuzimovka, Konashenkov specified. The Defense Ministry spokesman added that on November 17, the Russian armed forces launched a long-range precision-guided attack on Ukrainian defense industrial complex facilities and fuel and energy infrastructure. The strike also disrupted the redeployment of AFU reserves and the delivery of foreign weapons to the battle areas. On November 16, the Russian armed forces thwarted an attack by an AFU battalion tactical group near Stepnoy in the DNR. As a result, more than 65 Ukrainian servicemen were killed. Earlier, on November 11, the Russian Defense Ministry reported that the Russian military occupied the village of Opytnoye in the southern part of the Avdiivka fortified area, located 20 kilometers from Donetsk. Let's move on to international news. News from the IAEA. The IAEA Board of Governors has called on Russia to abandon Zaporizhzhia NPP. According to Agence France Presse, diplomatic sources have confirmed that the International Atomic Energy Agency's Board of Governors has adopted by a majority vote a resolution calling on Russia to leave the Zaporizhzhia NPP. It is specified that Canada and Finland sponsored the document. We call on Russia to stop all activities at nuclear facilities in Ukraine, and also to immediately withdraw its servicemen and other personnel from the power plant, the text of the resolution reads. The resolution was supported by 24 out of 35 countries that make up the IAEA Board of Governors. News from China. China Daily reported that Washington has turned NATO into a bloodthirsty zombie that is easy to control. The White House has turned the brainless NATO into a bloodthirsty zombie that is easy to control. This opinion was expressed by the Chinese edition of China Daily. According to the author of the article, the North Atlantic Alliance is a relic of the Cold War, which long ago should be buried. However, according to the publication, the administration of U.S. President Joe Biden has shown success in necromancy. The White House has turned an alliance with an acknowledged dead brain into a bloodthirsty zombie that, while remaining brainless, is easily manipulated if shown a virtual reality in which the Cold War never ended, the article says. News from British sources. Britain is losing its great power status after the G20 summit. Britain faces an uncertain future and is losing its status as an influential country on the world stage because of economic turmoil. This opinion was expressed by Bloomberg columnist Alan Crawford. He noted that the difficult economic outlook requires the British authorities to raise taxes and cut spending. Such measures will set the tone of the policy of Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, the journalist added. Crawford also drew attention to the recent G20 summit. According to him, the results of the meeting showed that there are other centers of power in the world, with which London needs to reckon. The new reality is a multipolar world that will not wait for Britain to solve its financial problems or adjust its failed political course, he said. News from Sweden. Swedish security service confirmed sabotage of Nord Streams. The Security Service of Sweden, SSE, has admitted the fact of sabotage on Northern Streams. According to the agency, remnants of explosives were found in the area of emergency. It is noted that an inspection revealed foreign objects, on which explosive residues were found. The ongoing preliminary investigation should show whether anyone can be charged with suspicion, the EPA said. The agency added that the gas lines suffered extensive damage. News from Poland after a missile hit their state territory. The Polish Confederation Party in the Sejm during a session demanded an apology from Ukraine and compensation for the damage caused in connection with the missile hit in Przewództwo. Deputy Robert Winnicki accused the Polish authorities of lying. He noted that at first they tried to write off the incident as an accidental explosion, later followed by many hours of silence, and then, a show was played. Deputies of the Confederation Party believe that Ukraine is obliged to pay compensation to the families of those who died as a result of what happened. This is the basis of international relations. Unfortunately, we do not see such an attitude, Winnicki said. News from Hungary. Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orbán said that the European Union's sanctions policy against Russia is pushing the community to war. This was stated by the head of government on the air of the radio station, Kossuth. According to him, to resolve the conflict in Ukraine we need not restrictive measures, but peaceful negotiations. The sanctions policy is a step towards war, the Prime Minister said. Orbán believes that if someone intervenes in the conflict with sanctions, he is taking one side and making a step toward war. The Prime Minister calls for peace talks rather than imposing sanctions. Thank you for watching the video. See you soon.